Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Bleed Los Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Foco. Foco.com, Foco, F-O-C-O. They have all the things for fandom that you may want. They've done a phenomenal job with these World Series bobbleheads that they've been dropping for the Dodgers. World Series champions, I should say. For anyone that needs to just be reminded, the Los Angeles Dodgers are the 2020 defending World Series champions. Yeah, get up out of here with that. Anyway, they've been doing a great job with these bobbleheads. They just dropped the Tommy Lasorda one. I just missed it. I'm super bummed about it. But you can keep an eye on those bobbleheads as they're dropping. Yeah, we've because they've been working with us. They've given us a little bit of the inside scoop, if you will, on what's coming in. So keep an eye on our Twitter handle at DodgersBeat, and you'll see what the fine folks at Foco are working on. But in the meantime, if you click on the link for the description for this podcast, click on that guy. It'll take you to their website. Add whatever you want to your cart, and upon checkout, a discount will be applied for being a listener to this here podcast. Excuse me. So, again, no promo code, none of that jazz. Just click on the link, add whatever you want to your cart, and then upon checkout, the discount will be applied. As always, terms and conditions do apply. Please see their website for more details. Big, huge thanks to Foco for the consideration and for supporting this podcast. And lastly, our good friends at Bleed Los. We talk a lot about merchandise and stuff like that, right? Well, Bleed Los has solid merchandise. All the Dodgers merchandise you can think of, they have. The Joe Kelly Fight Club shirt, they got it. At Culichi, they have stuff for him too. Walker Buehler, they got that stuff too. Check it out, bleedlos.com. For being a loyal listener to this here podcast, if you use the promo code BleedLosPod, you will save 10% on your purchase at checkout. So terms and conditions do apply to them as well. Please see their website for more details. But bleedlos.com, huge thank you for their consideration. And once again, to you guys, the fans, thank you for listening and subscribing and rating our podcast. It means a lot to us. And please continue to do so. And without further ado, here is another edition of the Bleed Los Podcast.
Hey fans, this is Todd Lights, public address announcer for your world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, and you are listening to the Bleed Los Podcast with your hosts Alonso and Juan, with the babyface gimmick in the sky, Roger.
And welcome to another edition of the Bleed Los Podcast. This week we are joined by the voice of the Quakes, Mike Lindskog, of the Director of Public Relations at the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. Dang, that's a tongue twister. How you doing today, Mike?
Real good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So let's just get right into it. You have a very unique job, because in the minors, obviously, people they wear multiple hats, right? But not only do you wear multiple hats, but you kind of get to see the beginnings, if you will, of guys as they work kind of, they begin their minor league journey. As we dive kind of into that, I'm curious to know from you, who is there a player that you've ever been starstruck by at that minor league level? Because as you know, there's rock star minor leaguers and then there's the regular minor leaguers, right?
Sure. Well, to your point, this year's different because we truly get to see them in their first year for our franchise's entire existence from 1993 to the COVID impacted year of 2020. We have always been what's known as high A classification. And as far as how the minor leagues worked, that's always been kind of almost the middle stop, if you will, on a player's way, theoretically speaking, to the big leagues. With the restructuring recently of minor league baseball, we are now what's known as low A. Which Great Lakes back in the day used to be low A, but there also used to be teams below low A, below Great Lakes. Now we're kind of the entry level position, if you will. So this year's different. The first month of the season, we've truly been able to see players, in their infancy, if you will. And, certainly here today, if you're asking me, who strikes me as a guy to keep an eye on, obviously Diego Cartaya is a name that has caught fire, if you will. for the last couple of weeks, and he's been here, and it's been really exciting to watch, his first few steps through the Dodgers minor league system. But over the course of my career, it's certainly a tough question to answer as far as who got me starstruck. That we've covered a number of different players even before the Dodger days. Mike Trout was here in Rancho Cucamonga when we were an Angels affiliate, the same year as Garrett Richards and Tyler Chatwood and some really good names from that Angel system, back in the day. Corey Seager was here when he was the number one prospect in the Dodger system. Julio Urias came through Rancho when he was, a top, 3 or 4 prospect. Keber Ruiz, same thing, a top 3 or 4 prospect coming through Rancho. So we've been treated, and very blessed to see the best of the best, not only with the Dodgers, which is, our most recent, 10 years of history, but even prior to that. So it's been a very exciting opportunity to watch these young kids grow. And obviously once they blossom in the big leagues, it's very, it's great. I mean, it's very prideful.
Hey, Mike, aside from the level of talent, what other changes or impacts have you noticed from going from a high A organization to a low A organization?
Tough question to answer in the midst of the 2021 season, because, this year has been impacted not just by the fact that, there's a level switch, but because instead of taking one bus, there are 3 buses. I'm not allowed on the bus until mid-June, even though I'm fully vaccinated. And so it's really hard to assess all the changes until, honestly, probably in 2022. I could probably give you a much better answer in the middle of the 2022 season. Maybe give me a month or two, because there's question marks with this season. And things are changing nearly daily, from capacity to media access to, again, you read me in as the director of public relations / voice of the Quakes, radio guy, dude that, travels on the bus and gets them the lineups and the stats and calls the games and the walk-off home runs and all that great stuff. And it's all different this year. And it's been challenging, to say the least. So, the answer to your question is best that I can give you right now at this stage, aside from the obvious switch to where, the kids are younger. We've never quite had kids that are this young. We've had, in the California League, as we knew it prior to 21, you would find a 19-year-old. You might even find an 18-year-old. Shoot, Julio Urias was 17 when he pitched here in the California League. Obviously, those are few and far between. But the youth, some of the mistakes that they're making at this level, you're not sure whether or not it's because of how young they are or because they've been away from the game for, a year and a half. You're not sure if it's because they didn't get an adequate spring training and, where the breakdown really is. So it's been different, and it hasn't all been great as far as those challenges are concerned. But again, choosing to be optimistic and a light at the end of the tunnel kind of a guy. Changes continue to happen in a positive fashion. I think we've seen the worst of what 21, hopefully baseball wise, has to offer. And I think, all the teams, not just the Quakes, they're in first place. So hard to be too critical. But I think all the teams will improve and play a cleaner brand of baseball going forward. And of course, who doesn't want to see a clean brand of baseball? Nobody wants to see, 6 combined errors up on the scoreboard every night. And unfortunately, those games kind of stick out when they happen.
And for those folks that don't know how the minors travel and why it's so challenging as well at that level, because like you said, you're in buses, the majors and even the AAA and the Pacific Coast League, they fly everywhere. However, they do. The Pacific Coast League flies everywhere.
Wait a minute, I am in the wrong league. That's not part of my contract.
Well, see, and I coming up through the Angel system, when I worked in the system, the Quakes were one of those affiliates, and that's kind of where I got there. And in Arkansas is where I got my crash course, if you will, as to how the minors travel. And the Arkansas Travelers had a nice bus for the AA level, and everyone kind of fond about it. And the Charlotte Knights had that nice bus, all that stuff, right? Point is, for those people that don't know how you guys travel and how you guys, what makes it even more challenging at that level to get around because of, the sizes of clubhouses, et cetera. let our listener or fill in our listeners as to kind of the logistics of that stuff, especially for a guy like you that is on the bus with these guys, currently not at the moment, right? But that has to travel around with them in those conditions.
Sure. And just to clarify, the reason that I'm quote unquote not allowed on the bus right now is not of who I am nor even my vaccination status. It is simply just an initiative to protect the players, to protect the staff at this stage of the game. Again, there's so many unknowns regarding COVID-19 when these rules were put into place. And obviously, as time goes by, we continue to learn, and therefore the rules continue to be adjusted. So in mid-June is going to be a nice stepping stone. I'll literally be allowed to go meet some of these guys for the first time, which seems mind-blowing as I sit here and just rattle off stats and alleged stuff in their bios when I haven't even, made eye contact with them yet. So it's pretty unthinkable. The only guy I've truly met on this staff is our manager, John Shoemaker, who has done an unbelievable job of morphing into a guy that has been, my communication liaison between the two teams. He's been just unbelievable in providing me everything that I can in order to do my job effectively in a pandemic. But again, to your question, traveling is tough. It forces a lot of guys that love minor league baseball, that think they're going to get into minor league baseball for the long haul and eventually the major leagues. It forces a lot of guys out. You'll see families ruined and marriages ended and cars, sold and crashed because you gotta make it work. And it's obviously tough. Each league is different. You alluded to the fact that in AAA, the majority of the guys fly. In this particular league, where we're confined to the state of California, it's much easier. In saying that, when I say easier, I mean that a lot of these trips are commutable. Rancho to Lake Elsinore, 45 minutes via bus. An hour with traffic. Rancho to Inland Empire, San Bernardino, 30 minutes, by bus or by car, and you're staying, the night in your own bed, which is fantastic, for a family and a guy that's not just single, that's happy-go-lucky and willing to go wherever. It matters. And so being in the California League, now referred to as Low A West, it's really great, the traveling here, because your worst trip is a 6-7 hour bus ride north to San Jose and Stockton. And when you compare that to, say, just point of reference, what the Arkansas Travelers used to do, I spent 6 years in the Texas League, so very familiar with the Travs and Phil Elson. I'm sure we could probably tell some stories of that bus, and Bill Valentine and all those good names. It's traveling in the Texas League is brutal, because there is no flying in the Texas League, and yet all the cities are far enough away to justify flying. And so we're pretty lucky out here. And if this is your only taste of minor league travel, you're going to say, oh man, it's rough. Like those 6 and 7 hour bus rides are horrid and hideous. But, compared apples to apples to, say, the Texas League, where your bus rides are 12 and 13 hours and your shortest bus ride is 6 or 7 hours, it's pretty tasty out here out west.
Mike, you paint this beautiful picture of being a minor leaguer. I mean, look, I get it in the sense that, as a kid, you hear the stories that if I want to get to the big leagues, I have to go through the minor leagues, right? It's called paying your dues. But being that you're a one-man band, not only do you're the play-by-play announcer, you're the PR guy, you clean the toilets, you do everything, right?
Fact.
Was that, tell me about your dream. I'm sure your dream is not to be in the minor leagues your whole career. How did you get your start in the minor leagues, and what's your plan? Where do you want to go from here?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of questions in there. First and foremost, so I have a broadcast partner, and this year his name is Davis Ellington, and he's done a great job of helping me during a very complicated, challenging season. And so, it's one-man band to a certain extent, but there's help. I've got a great, social media guy as well that helps us, gather stats and facts, during the games, and he writes features in the program. Jason Reed is his name, and he's a huge asset for us as well. And then obviously our staff, we're all challenged this year. There is no, oh, woe is me. We've all got challenges and shortcomings that we're battling around. So, how do I handle it, and where do I want to go? There was a time, I'm knocking on the door of 50 here in a couple of years. So there was certainly a time where The goal and aspirations were to, 100% put your head down and do whatever it takes to make it to the major leagues. And then, of course, as I'm sure as we, find as we get into, further into adulthood, priorities and responsibilities become less. It becomes more about your family. It becomes more about your little guy than it ever does about you and your career. And I've always said, if, not now, but, if Finn ever called and wanted me to carry his bags for him, by God, I'm going to make that happen. And yes, sir, Mr. Scully, what can I get you an ice cold lemonade to go along with your Farmer John Dodger dog? But these days, working for the Quakes and Brett Sports, who's the ownership group behind the Quakes, this has become my life, and I'm very proud of it. I'm not at all dismissive of the fact that I continue to work in minor league ball. I don't necessarily go out and search the job boards for, the Colorado Rockies and the Pittsburgh Pirates, broadcaster jobs wanted. I'm not searching those forums very actively, and in fact, not at all, really. So we've got a great house and great jobs and great friends, and this is a great community. I always said if the Montreal Expos were back in business and they called and said, you want to move to Canada, I'd very much consider it. But in saying that, very, very proud of the community I live in. We've done a lot of great work with the Quakes, and it's a great gig. I mean, it truly is. We still get to touch those major leaguers on rehab assignments. Just last week, in fact, we had AJ Pollock, who became the first Quake to rehab. In a normal year, we're getting 10 to 15 Los Angeles Dodgers that are down the line, and these aren't just non-name brand guys. I mean, we've had Kirsch, we've had Justin Turner, et cetera, et cetera. Walker Buehler came up through the Quakes and has rehabbed here as a Quake. Corey Seager came up through the Quakes and has rehabbed with the Quakes. It's been awesome to be a part of that. You don't necessarily feel like you're stuck in the minor leagues because you get to taste that Los Angeles atmosphere and those vibes, and keeping the beat writers abreast as to what's going on. JP Hornstra recently reached out to me. He's obviously a guy that's well connected here in Southern California, looking to do a feature on the newest would-be Dodger that's Diego Cartaya. He actually just put a piece out that was really great, and it was informative for me as well, again, because I don't get to hang out at the cage and sit on the bus and ask dumb questions. So I gotta read JP's piece on Diego Cartaya and learn a little bit, and it was tremendous. And so that was the long-winded answer to your question.
No, I appreciate your honesty, because I didn't want it to come off as I'm saying you're stuck in the minor leagues. It's one of those things where I think it comes with age, and you mentioned it. You get to a certain point where these are choices now that you're making, and obviously you love what you do, and if you end up being in the minor leagues, for another 10 years, 20 years, you obviously love doing it and you have kids, and that's not a bad thing. And the correlation between your journey and what a minor leaguer does, because you get to see these guys every day. Not all of those guys are going to make it to the show. Not all of those guys are even going to make it to high A, double A, triple A. There's a lot of those guys. And I just admire the fact that you get to see these struggles for these guys every day. And I admire those people that still go out there and keep doing it, because they're pursuing not necessarily a dream, but they pursue something that they love to do. So I hope it didn't come off disrespectful. I appreciate your honesty.
Not at all. It's a very obvious question. Any minor league broadcaster, and frankly, I'm going to be in probably a 10% category of guys that are going to give you that answer. Most guys, I've got a broadcast partner that I just mentioned, Davis Ellington. My priority is honestly to get him to the big leagues before I get myself to the big leagues at this stage of the game, and I take a lot of pride in that. I've had a lot of great partners that I've worked with, because it's always kind of a one-year deal. This is like your first stop in minor league baseball for Davis this year. Years prior to that, Andrew Chapman, Zach Bigley, Brandon Liebhaber, Dave Pulaski. These guys are on their way as broadcasters that are super talented, and I would much rather invest in their future because I'm good. I'm good. I'm at peace with it, if you will. And it's like I said, it's a great gig. I love what I do. I love the people that I do it with. Every year brings different challenges and different relationships, whether it's guys on the team or guys on the coaching staff or what have you. Some years are better than others. This year happens to be phenomenal so far with our skipper, who is a leader and a mentor. And I just have the utmost respect for. And so, when you work with guys like that, John Shoemaker, again, is his name this year, you want to keep going. And, I have a 7-year-old son. This job is important to me, not only as a provider for my son, my wife and whatnot, but I want him to be able to realize, and at 7, you're not quite dialed in with what I'm about to say. I want him to be able someday to understand how cool Dad's gig really was. Like at 7, it's cool. Oh yeah, Cody Bellinger's on TV winning the World Series. Daddy says I've met him. DJ Peters just hit his first home run. I've seen that picture of me and DJ Peters, Daddy. Like, can you show it to me again? He's not quite dialed in just yet, but I figure in another year or two, when he's on the bus or getting yelled at down by the dugout because he's not picking up the bats on time, I figure that's really when it's going to hit home. And then when he's 21, he's going to realize, God, that was awesome. Like I met fill in the blank, Diego Cartaya, whatever it is, and I want to be able to give him that experience. And again, that's about doing it for somebody else and hopefully not doing it about yourself. So that's kind of the goal at this point.
And to kind of follow up with that too, because I had to learn early on that part of it, right? Because my journey through baseball was backwards. I worked in the Angel system. I was lucky enough to go up and down. I spent some time in Rancho because guys like K-Rod, Kelvin Escobar, those guys, I'd go with them as their liaison, for the rehab assignments, right? As they roll in, do the thing, buy the spread and take off. With that, as far as like growing up around that and whatnot, I do recall that everyone kind of looked at Rancho as kind of like that rehab destination because it was so close to Anaheim. And that was kind of, and it's a great, by the way, if you've never been to Lomar Field, I highly recommend going. It's one of the greater minor league ballparks in all of baseball. Some of the minor league ballparks, as I'm sure having worked in the Texas League, they're not great. They're definitely not the facilities that are Lomar Field or even Lindskog here. And I live in Salt Lake City, up the road here in Ogden. That's no longer a Dodgers affiliate, but that's one of the, in my opinion, one of the better facilities around. But, I'm kind of curious for you as director of public relations, you find out obviously, hey, so-and-so is coming to do a rehab assignment. As you know, the players have more say in that than people realize. They say, hey, we need you to do a rehab assignment. Cool. Where do you want to go? I want to go to Rancho. So when you get that call, kind of walk us through how you get that going. Cause you obviously not only do you have to promote that, for the entity, but you also have to make that player feel comfortable when they get there as well.
Sure. There's a lot of steps and a lot of different answers. Again, we have a good team, around me and behind me. It's not all me by any stretch of the imagination. Bobby Salcido has been a part of our team for a number of years, and she puts together a lot of the social media type content that will go out there that says, hey, AJ Pollock to rehab this weekend kind of a thing. We have a really good system, a really good relationship with the Dodgers to where, there's a lot of respect there. They trust us to do the right thing and do with the information what we need to do to A, promote the player, B, benefit ourselves, C, keep quiet until it's not time to keep quiet anymore. And so there's a lot of factors that go into that. And so, when we get the word that there could or will be a rehabbing player, we immediately get together, whether it's on the phone or now over Zoom, obviously, or in the office back in the old days. There's a plan in place. It's, hey, Kirsch is scheduled to be here on Friday. We can't let the cat out of the bag until Thursday because, he's still going to throw a side bullpen and this is their plan, but we can't go with it. That type of a thing. We've been in that scenario before. And again, we've handled it the right way, which is why we continue, to get good marks, if you will, from the Dodgers. And that's why we continue to get opportunities to host big leaguers. Our venue is awesome. It doesn't necessarily have maybe all the bells and the whistles that a brand new facility does, but God, it's so clean and it's so sharp, and our customer service is absolutely second to none. When fans come out to the ballpark, they're treated arguably like family, and that's the experience we want them to have. And so we've got a good thing going, and that customer service carries over to the rehab guys as well. Hopefully, and again, COVID is different because we can't touch them physically nor in a way that we would like. But hopefully AJ Pollock was taken care of the way that he wanted to be taken care of by our staff and our clubhouse guy, Casey Plone, who works really hard to make sure these guys are satisfied and obviously this year safe, which is, a buzzword. So we're very lucky that the Dodgers trust us. We're very lucky to be blessed to be within 47 miles or whatever that number is from Los Angeles. And to your point, guys do have a choice. Not all the time does Andrew Friedman or Dave Roberts say, hey, you're gonna go here. I believe the question is posed like, hey, Rancho's home on Thursday. That's where we'd like to see you go. Sometimes there's a level of competition thing. I know Kershaw several years ago, there were some reports that, he wanted to face, a higher level of competition before he took his next step in, I want to say it was 19 when he was on the shelf. But again, we've seen Kershaw rehab here twice before. I think the last time he picked Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the AA level, of course, rather than Rancho. And that's all good. I mean, those guys need to be comfortable too. And again, one of the, I think, factors that went into that decision as well is the Dodgers were traveling. They were in the central time zone. I think they were in Detroit or Milwaukee or something like that. And so, it makes sense. If he's going to travel to Oklahoma, then he can jump a flight to Detroit, Michigan, or wherever it was. That makes a lot of sense rather than, traveling with the team and flying all the way back out west to do a rehab assignment in Rancho on the West Coast and then rejoining the team in New York or Washington or whatever. So there's some geography that goes along with that as well. But again, very lucky to have the relationship that we do with the Dodgers. And then I've been asked a lot with the affiliation dropping down a level from, high A to low A, is that going to touch our rehabbers? And the answer in the long term is no. That the Dodgers have led us to believe that there will not be a change. The fact that AJ Pollock was just here lends some validation to their point there that things aren't going to change with us as far as the amount of rehabbers that in a given year will come through Rancho, so the fans can see them up close. Because again, it's a great experience. It's a great ballpark. Our capacity is 4,900, as they say. There's not a bad seat in the house when a guy like Corey Seager or AJ Pollock or whoever comes to rehab. So hopefully, Seager will be healthy soon. And if he chooses Rancho, if they choose Rancho, we'll have a warm locker ready for him.
Mike, what has become very clear to me is being in the minor leagues, you have to be willing to adapt to change. Looking at your resume and hearing you mentioned earlier how it used to be an Angels affiliate, now it's a Dodgers affiliate. When a change like that happens, how do you approach the job?
Well, for me personally, it truly doesn't matter. I did not grow up in Southern California, so my born and bred allegiance was not to the Padres, Dodgers, Angels, A's, or anything like that. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, which makes me a Mariners fan. And I went to sleep at night listening to Dave Niehaus and Rick Riz, and really inspiring me to love the game like I do today. So an affiliation change for me doesn't necessarily impact, my love for the game or enjoyment or ability to call the game. When the Brett Sports Group bought the Quakes and came to Rancho, we only had 1 year left on the Angels PDC, the player development contract. So there was only 1 year remaining on that agreement. And the Angels were given every opportunity to renew with some, whatever conditions were in that agreement. But I think deep down, our owner, Bobby Brett, and the Brett brothers, George Brett and JB and what have you, Bobby grew up a Dodger fan. And so I think deep down, he was not at all bent out of shape that the Dodgers were there and potentially wanted to be in Rancho. This was at the end of the 2010 season. And by October, we were a Dodgers affiliate, and I prefer blue over red, which is great. I think I look fine in blue. Red was okay, but my preference is blue. And so from that standpoint, really doesn't matter to me personally. But then you ask the question, well, what does it do for your business, and what does it do for the fans in the community? It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's 100% a no-brainer. It's great for the business of the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. It is so good for our fans. And I don't need to say, all the reasons and point to the chart of what it is, but, one of those teams has won the World Series. One of those teams has been to the World Series 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years or whatever it is. And one of them hasn't. And so I'm proud to be wearing blue and I'm good with it.
One has a Mickey Mouse ring and the other one's Mickey Mouse. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
I'm not sure I understand where you're going with that, Juan. Not sure I understand the inside humor there.
Of all, obviously you've had quite the journey, right? Coming up to here, to where you're at now in your current role. Previously, you've had several different roles. I'm kind of curious, in your opinion, which would you say was the most formative to kind of get you into this current role that you're in now?
They've all been very different. As you suggested at the top of the interview here, when you're in the minor leagues, you don't just do one thing. You wear many hats, and it's a couple hours to game time, and in a few moments, I'm going to throw on my headphones and fill out my scorecard. And I'm going to go into radio guy mode. Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going to get some stats for our manager and email them to him, and then I'm going to start checking the email box and answering the fan inquiries. Everything from, hey, my hot dog wasn't as warm as it could have been, to, hey, winter group seats going on sale after the pandemic lessons. I'm the guy that answers all those. I've got clients and sponsors and partners that need stuff. Guys that have signs on the outfield walls and ads in the program and names on the bobbleheads and ticket packages, et cetera. So to a certain extent, we all do some of that. And each job has helped to prepare me for the next. Different markets have required different things. Like here in Rancho, I sell in the off season, which is not an uncommon thing for minor league broadcasters. Certainly it's becoming more uncommon. Most radio guys that are, that have the position that I do not work for the team year round. I do. I work for the team year round in different capacities with, PR obviously, and sales and social media, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas some guys just literally come in, the day before opening day, start putting together some game notes and show up the next day at 5 o'clock, 2 hours before game time. In Springfield, Missouri, when I worked for the St. Louis Cardinals, there were no sales involved. And that prepped me to do everything for a big market. We had some exhibition games against the St. Louis Cardinals, in fact. And when the Cardinals PR department came down to Springfield, I was running circles around them as just myself and like one helper. And I was like, guys, when are we getting the rosters? And they handed me this typed out half a piece of paper that was part crinkled. And I was like, should I make copies of these, or do you think you can email me a real roster? And that gave me a sense that I got a good operation that I'm proud of here in Springfield. And again, we were on television, and we had, massive media attention. And I was, giving television interviews dang near every day. And so that prepared me for nearly anything. And then, of course, out here in Rancho, while I got here in 2010, we had solid media coverage. We're in the LA TV market, so the TV coverage per se, they're not putting me on camera, regardless if I have COVID hair or not COVID hair. They're not putting me on camera every day like they were in Springfield, Missouri. So different challenges and different positions and different requirements for each job and each stop along my minor league career. I've worked for 5-6 teams throughout the industry, and each one has been different, but collectively it's all prepared me and made me better, and I can handle about anything at my age and at my level.
Mike, recently in the news, we saw the Oakland A's having to apologize because the minor league players shared some photos of totally unacceptable, totally unacceptable post-game meals. Can you, I'm sure the Quakes aren't doing anything like that, but can you just speak, the struggle that these minor leaguers, a lot of these minor leaguers are not even making enough money to pay for their rent. I've heard stories in the past of some players living with their parents, or getting financial support from their parents in order to survive these seasons. How you being, you work for the team, I understand that, but you're a broadcaster, you see these guys. How do these guys deal with the struggles of daily life, and at the same time realizing, if I don't go 2 for 4, this might be it?
Sure. So I'll answer the front half of this question, and this is going to sound like the Quakes get a free pass here, but just to set the record straight. So when Oakland A's minor league guys start putting out photos of their team spread, it has nothing to do with the minor league team per se. The Oakland Athletics are responsible for getting the food to their guys. Likewise, here in Rancho, the Quakes, my general manager, our president, our ownership, my coworkers, we have nothing to do with actually feeding the players. That is all initiated and comes through the Los Angeles Dodgers. Proudly, I can say that the Dodgers were on the front end, the trailblazing end, if you will, behind Gabe Kapler. In fact, when he was the farm director back in the 2014, 2015 season, I believe is when that started, where the initiative was health and nutrition is as important as rest, and it is important as getting 4 at-bats a game and throwing a side bullpen. Gabe implemented a system where every Dodger minor league affiliate was allotted X amount of money, and then it became our job to find a local organic caterer that would not only provide guys with 2 meals a day at the home games, but that caterer was also obligated to travel with the team up north. Now, obviously in the California League at the time, that becomes while a challenge, it becomes easier than, say, in Oklahoma City, where they're going to Tacoma, Washington, they're going to Round Rock, Texas, going to Nashville, Tennessee, et cetera, et cetera. You're not going to just travel with the same caterer to Tacoma, Washington, for crying out loud. You're going to have to do the research there. So it was easier in Rancho to make that happen. And so what I'm saying is, for the last 6 years, our guys have eaten better, certainly, than the Oakland A's minor leaguers have. And so I can proudly look at you in the eye and be like, well, it's not our responsibility. It wasn't on us, but I can proudly toot the Dodger horn and say that Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi and Andrew Friedman and now all these guys that have kept the program running were so on the early end of recognizing how important nutrition was. It started at spring training, all the meats and stuff and the veggies were organic. They got rid of some of the clubhouse staples that I wasn't a big fan of. Like, you sneak in there for a little PBJ before game time. And when it's gone, you're like, Gabe, what are you doing? Cap, like, we need to talk. Where's the PBJ? And bananas, because apparently they're fattening or something. So, stealing a banana back in the day used to be a pregame staple. I'm sure Alonso can speak to this.
Accurate. PB&Js and bananas were the business.
Yeah, you're not going to dip your finger in the peanut butter for sanitary reasons, but you might grab a plastic spoon and just grab a little taster out the door. But yeah, it's changed. I'm proud of the way that not only we do it here in Rancho, but obviously the way the Dodgers do it. And then, the other part of your question was, how do these guys struggle and survive in the minor leagues? It's tough, man. There's a lot of education about it now than there was, say, 10 years ago, when everybody was like, oh, you're a professional baseball player. Wow. You must make a lot of money. And back then, it was hard to educate people because, if you're a first round draft pick, you got plenty of cash. You're getting a good signing bonus. If you're a 5th round draft pick, maybe you see a decent signing bonus. If you're committed to go to UCLA and you're drafted in the 38th round because they don't think you're coming out of college, but they buy you out of your college contract, maybe you get a good signing bonus. Those people are few and far between, and the majority of the minor leaguers, they're not making that kind of money. And they're again, similar to the food situation. All of the players that wear Rancho Cucamonga Quakes uniforms, they're paid by the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're here in Lake Elsinore tonight. Everybody that's in a Storm jersey, they're not paid. They don't get a paycheck from the Lake Elsinore Storm, DBA Storm baseball. Like they're getting a check from the San Diego Padres. And so it's hard to help explain that to people. But what remains true is minor leaguers are persistent. And it's not always right, and it's certainly rarely pretty, but they've taken some strides, some that I'm not pleased with, some that I'm not really comfortable commenting on from a MLB perspective. The removal of 40 some teams is not something that rubs me the right way. But ultimately, for the guys that are still in the game going forward, it will be better for them because there will be more of the pie to go around, if you will. Housing is a huge hot button topic right now. That Oakland A's thing that went viral here a week or so ago that you're referencing just makes me shake my head, man. That's unfortunate. I mean, if your players are going to go to across the street to the fast food place and get a spicy chicken sandwich for 99 cents, that's on them. Here in Rancho with the Dodgers, they provide them the opportunity to get, organic fish and organic steak and organic chicken, twice a day. And if they want to run across the street to, the Golden Arches or whatever, and put that stuff in their body, that's going to be on them. You can only police them so much. But I don't know what that stuff was that they were serving them, with whatever affiliate that was through the Oakland A's. I know the pictures look pretty sad on the internet.
Yes, and I also appreciate that I feel like you maybe feel the same way about Rob Manfred that we do on the show, but I'll leave it at that, Mike.
Who?
Exactly. Thank you, Mike.
Well, and also with that, as you may recall, Mike, if you were lucky enough to be in a clubhouse that had some ice cream sandwiches, something like that, then you were doing okay. You were in a solid clubhouse, But I mean, that's just it's the dynamic of it. Obviously, is a little different now because the Dodgers, as you talked about, trailblazing, they're one of the organizations that implemented the way that or implemented a system, I guess I should say, of how they treat prospects. And I'm sure you've seen it firsthand, having been there for several years now, the way that the Dodgers treat every player, regardless of where they were drafted, regardless of signing bonus, how they develop that player, to potentially get to the next level. I'm kind of curious, you to a certain degree have seen that firsthand. Can you tell us a little bit about that, especially since you're around other organizations that obviously will remain nameless as we talk about that?
Sure. Again, very, very prideful in that I can tell you, I wasn't sure I understood your statement initially, and I thought I was going to have to correct you when I said, no, they don't just treat the prospects well, they treat everybody in the organization well, as far as, some of those things that other guys aren't getting. So you said that at the end, and it saved me from having to correct you per se. So it's great that that's the case, and then I can, look at you in the eye and tell you that that's truly the way it is here on the inside, looking out. And it's definitely not that way through other organizations. And, the Dodgers are in a better situation. They have it starts, maybe with, just the general vision. They get it, they want to do right. Certainly there are mistakes that have been made, not just, within the Dodgers, but within all major league organizations. And I definitely feel that the Dodgers get it more so. I think more and more teams are getting on board. And so that's good for the game. It's good for the minor leaguers that are grinding and struggling and what have you. It's some of it, the stories that you hear are embarrassing. There are teams in our league that I've heard embarrassing stories about this year, whether it's the way they've handled COVID-19, whether it's, how they're treating their minor league affiliates, meaning, like the Quakes staff, for instance, but on the other side with that other minor league affiliate. And again, we're so lucky. We're so blessed to have the Dodgers in our corner. They're doing what they can to make it better for us as Quakes employees. They're doing what they can to make it better for Quakes players, because that's their family, that's their players. It's not all perfect. And some of it is still changes. And as you suggested with the Rob Manfred stuff, some of the things are hard to get behind, but it is the way that it is. And we're going to do our best to support it because that's the way it is. And we're going to put, as positive a spin on it as we can, because that's the right thing to do. And then hopefully, maybe I disagree with how it is on June 1st, but, maybe in 2023, I'll look back and go, this has turned out to be better for the game, to be better for the minor leaguers. And I hope that's the case.
One of the many takeaways that I had from the pandemic, Mike, in terms of baseball, is just how important the minor league system is. So I agree with you with the stuff that Manfred did. It hurts the game because we need the minor league system. And even with the late start this year, these guys need to be playing every day. These guys need places to rehab where they're actually playing competition. This offsite, where they were sending people when the minor leagues weren't around, it's just not the same for these guys. Being that every sport is going to be dealing with the financial impacts of the pandemic. How prepared, or what do the Quakes have something in mind for themselves to recover from the pandemic? And will they be able to continue to survive?
The Quakes will survive. Proudly, I can say that with you, or say that to you with a straight face. I definitely think the worst is behind us. We are a business that only operates for 5.5 months every year, essentially. So to take away, and again, obviously all the minor league teams are in this boat, but just to put it in perspective, we only take in revenue, 5.5 months a year. The other 6 months we're not exactly shuttered, but we were last year. And so, when you don't have a dime of revenue coming in over the course of, October of 19 to May of 21, things get a little hairy. And so, the worst is behind us. Obviously 2020 was awful as far as financials are concerned. 2021 is going to be better, but not great. Some teams are going to be really hurting and probably need, the PPP loans and what have you, truly that were put out there. And obviously there may be some sort of relief coming for other businesses that probably need it more than a lot of minor league teams for sure. So everybody's in that same boat. You referenced, minor leaguers have got to be able to play and advance their career and whatnot, but you're just like everybody else in this world. You're a victim of the pandemic, and minor league baseball had to push pause. It was the right thing to do. There was no scenario where they were just going to gather in Florida and Arizona and just go about camp. I mean, there's breakouts and people are dying, and you gotta be willing to push pause and put the big picture ahead of a little bit of development there with the minor league guys. But as the Quakes are going forward, we're not the Lancaster Jethawks. The Jethawks were not in a position to where financially they were struggling, and that's why they're no longer in business. The Jethawks ended up on a bad list, and my heart breaks for those fans in Lancaster that deserved an opportunity to say goodbye to that team before they had their moving sale in the middle of the night, a la the Baltimore Colts back in the day. And it sucks. I mean, it really sucks. And I hurt for those fans. And we've seen some of them come up to Rancho here in the last month that, they're wearing Jethawks gear. And God, that hurts, man. And, that's not a rivalry there. That's a brotherhood. And you feel for those fans and that stinks. And for people that don't know what I'm referencing here, there was a list of 42 teams that weren't going to make the cut to go on to what is now the new way of minor league baseball. The Quakes were in a good spot. We're moving forward. We got fans and we got games and uniforms and everything. It's really great. But the Jethawks were on that list, and they didn't deserve that. Their fans certainly didn't deserve that. But a victim certainly of the new analytical way. And there's too much altitude and too much wind, and the MLB teams can't evaluate the players that are playing there. So they did away with them. And, however we feel about that, it's got to be kept inside. And, we're just lucky in Rancho to be moving forward. This upcoming June 15th, hopefully things are going to continue to take another stride forward. And instead of welcoming only 1,400 folks to a alleged sold out ballpark, hopefully we're going to be able to welcome, much more than that by July 1st. We're going to baby step it in Rancho. We're not just going to open the doors wide open and welcome, 4,900 back on June 15th. We're going to baby step it a little bit, but by July 1st, our anticipation is, on the first Saturday night, we're going to be sold out. It's going to be awesome. And, we're still going to mask up as a staff, regardless of vaccination status, and those that are coming out to the ballpark that aren't vaccinated, we're going to ask them to wear a mask as well. But we're going to do it safely, and we're going to do it proudly. And we've had great support from the fans and the community and the leadership through the city. We're all in this together, as they say, which is not just as cliche as it sounds.
Well, a last one from me, Mike. This is a little something that we do on the show with all our guests. Everyone on the show here.
I have to dance.
No, not that.
Okay.
But it'll be close to that. We are all taqueros on this show. We love tacos. So, I have to say, I can't remember the last time I was in Rancho Cucamonga, but you tell me, where can I go get a good taco in Rancho? And also, are you a taco guy? And if so, I need to know what's your go-to taco.
Oh, my broadcast partner just walked out of the room, and he's going to be devastated that he missed this part of the segment here. So my wife works at a sports complex in Norco, and across the street from her work in East Vale, Norco, just kind of right there on the city line, is this little taco place, and it's in the middle of strip mall, and it's kind of, whatever from afar, but you get in there and it is delish. And I told my broadcast partner, I said, when we go to Lake Elsinore on the first day is Tuesday, they have Taco Tuesday, and for $1.50, their tacos are ridiculous. And so yesterday I took my broadcast partner Davis to this taco joint. Of course I bought, because I'm the older one in the group here. And we went right down. He's like, what should I get? And I go, well, normally I get a burrito. I get a chorizo burrito because they do chorizo really well here. And that's kind of my jam. Like, if you got good chorizo, I'm in. And so he goes, what do I get? And I said, since it's Taco Tuesday and since you've never been here, I go, you gotta knock out as many of those meats as you can. And in order, it says carne asada, you've got el pastor, you've got chorizo, you've got pollo. The next one is something called lengua. And I said, you may or may not want to get into that. That's your call. But no, we avoided head and tongue, and I don't know if they had Rocky Mountain oysters in tacos there. I don't think they quite went that far. But yeah, their tacos are legit, and it's just a little taco shop right there on Hamner, right there in Norco Eastvale, and it's about 15 minutes away from Rancho. Other than that, in Rancho specifically, on like the Rancho upland border, there's a place called Esther's Tacos, and they have really good tacos. My jam there is shrimp. Shrimp tacos there are the best.
So you're a shrimp taco guy, because
I'm an all taco guy. Didn't you just hear what I said?
Hey, there's some guy.
As long as it's not tongue.
When we had El Titan, when we had Adrian Gonzalez on the show, he was a carne asada guy, and he lectured me on the art of carne asada. Jorge Castillo from the LA Times was a fish taco guy. So we're just trying to pin you down, Mike. We want to know what what taco you represent.
I am a big time foodie. Like, you're not going to have a bigger foodie on the show than me. Like, if you just want to like have the next 45 minutes be about food, that's fine. I can take this off and put on an apron or a chef's hat. We can go Mexican, we can go Italian. I'm a big Italian guy. Yes.
Next time we have you on the show, we're going to take you up on that.
Yes. Please, I'm waiting. I'm trying to get a deal with the Food Network or something on HGTV. I mean, I need all the help I can get.
I will say
I'll kill any taco, man.
I'm not one to disrespect guests, but I'm not going to stand for lengua taco slander. That's
well, and again, I'm typically very open-minded. You're just going to have to give it to me and just make me eat it, and I will do it on your behalf, Alonso.
Well, I will say with this, because again, we are all probably batting 300 as far as tacos go. We're not in a minor league playing shape, I guess that's the euphemism for that. But lengua tacos, have made right, in my opinion, are the best. But we can have that debate another time.
Yes, but fair enough.
We're talking about HGTV. If I'm not mistaken, you have a cameo and maybe an IMDb credit on the HGTV. Do you not?
Maybe. Yeah, my wife and I purchased a house in Montepulciano, Italy, a couple of years ago, and
so you just blew this whole minor league thing out of the water, Mike. Now
you can watch the episode. We only paid $100,000 up. That's like a parking space in LA, bro.
That's true. That is a parking space.
Watch the episode. All that stuff is real. None of it is exaggerated for television. We were on an episode of House Hunters International, indeed. Montepulcianoitaly.com. That's a real thing, and it's just a beautiful city. And if you don't think there hasn't been some talk of, God, you know what would go great here? Tacos. So Italy, Montepulciano, Italy is just dying for maybe even lengua tacos, Alonso. I don't know.
Listen, the Italians get down with the food, and so I could foresee them throwing down some lengua tacos. I mean, we maybe after we get off the air, we can discuss a taco stand in Montepulciano.
I will definitely check out that episode because I do appreciate your homage to Tawny Katane in the episode.
Oh
myself,
okay. So you've done your research.
I'm a big fan. I think her work in Bachelor Party and the major motion picture Bachelor Party is her best work. But that music video from Whitesnake is very close. And so I think you did a great job there, Mike.
Well, I appreciate that. There's an off-air story that is that'll probably make you laugh regarding that scene. That was not supposed to make the cut, and yet it made it into the promotional cut. They were so excited about me doing some Tawny Katane on the hood of a car. Awkward.
Yes. Well, I mean, I was gonna say, hey, thanks for giving us kind of a bare bones insight to the minor leagues, but then
this show got hijacked though.
Real quick. Uh-huh. Because you own a villa in Italy. So, I mean, that just that throws everything out the window, and we can no longer, we can't talk about PB&Js anymore either. Damn.
Just Montepulcianoitaly.com. How could you go wrong with that website? Like, go look, and like somebody email them, like, you guys all need some tacos over there.
But I mean, listen, that I've post-pandemic.
And a minor league team, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say a minor league team, because they love baseball in Italy too, low key. Not as much as here. But we can get a team, some tacos, maybe.
It's gonna be a hard commute though.
It would. But I mean,
Oh.
at the end of the day, wouldn't you travel far for some good tacos?
I would travel.
There you go.
I will travel with you.
Well, on that note,
Bragging.
Mike, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Mike, excuse me, Mike Lindskog, the voice of the Quakes, the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. Thank you for the time, man. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate really the insight as to kind of the behind the scenes, if you will, in your organization.
You bet. Hopefully, and Roger's been out to the stadium a number of times, but looking forward to having all three of you out to Lone March Field in some capacity real soon. We're excited that the worst of the pandemic is behind us, and just really excited to get back in the swing of things and welcome fans and do what we do best, which is great customer service and show everybody a good time. So hopefully you guys can make it out there real soon. Go Quakes.
And Mike, where can our listeners follow you and get some Quake information?
You bet. So specifically, if they want to listen to the broadcast, rcquakes.com. It's R for Rancho, C for Cucamonga. They don't have to spell it all out, but rcquakes.com. And of course, we're on the iHeartRadio app. We're on the TuneIn Radio app. And of course, they can read up all about the Quakes at rcquakes.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And we will catch you down the road there, man.
Thanks, fellas.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and leave a review to the Bleed Los Podcast. The Bleed Los Podcast is a Dodgers Beat production.